Good morning and welcome to Give Me Credit. I am J.S. Waldo, former underwriter of 30 years, here with John Mackey, our credit genius. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Nice. Good to be here.
Yeah, nice day. Today we're going to start talking about something I think a lot of people don't realize, which there's a lot of rules and regulations behind credit protections, things that come into an action from Congress. One of the very important ones happened, one of the first ones that happened that was such a long time ago, was the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And I don't
Right.
think everybody knows what that is. So John and I have decided that we're going to break down the Fair Credit Reporting Act to tell you about your rights as the consumer. So I think the first thing to understand about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, we call it the FCRA, it gives you a very powerful set of rights. And it was the first one to give you these rights to protect your credit history for fairness, accuracy, privacy in the credit reporting system. So
That's
John,
correct.
let's jump right into this. Why don't you tell us what you know? You're the genius about all of our regs, the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Well, what's amazing here, JS, is that we've got these powerful tools in our toolbox that if somebody knows about them, they don't know how to use them, or they're maybe afraid to use them. And I say there's nothing to be afraid of in this powerful toolbox. It gives us the right to challenge what and how we're being followed and what's being reported to the credit bureaus. This all began in about 1970. It was based on the amount of abuse that consumers had even back then on credit reporting. Now, to be succinct, I'm going to read off what these rights are, and
Okay,
then we
that's
can
right.
go back and discuss each one
Okay,
um, as in depth as we want to get, and we'll talk from there. We
excellent, excellent.
okay. Number one, we've got the right. You have the right to access your credit report. Prior to 1970, you had no right at all to access your credit report. You
Wow.
couldn't get it. You couldn't see it. So how could you protect yourself? You couldn't. Number two, within that credit report, you have the right to it being accurate,
Mhm.
complete, and verifiable. And there is a key word there, and that's verifiability. It has
Yeah.
to be able to be verified. We'll get into that later.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds important.
Yeah, it is. The right to dispute errors. You have that right. If something is wrong, you have the right to challenge the item that is wrong. Again, we'll get into depth on these. I don't want to go
Mhm.
down any rabbit holes because sometimes I can't come back out. Um, Number four, you've got the right to be informed of negative actions.
Mhm.
Again, we'll go into it in a minute. Right to know who looked at your report. I want to know who's looking through the window at me undressing. Or that's a bad visual. But anyway, I want to know who's looking at me. I want to know that I have a right to add a consumer statement that's
Mm.
given us that right. But we'll get into some of the problems with that part.
Yeah.
Number seven, you have the right to dispute directly with the furnisher of that information. You have the right to challenge it with the credit bureaus, but you also have the right to challenge it with the creditor themselves. You have the right to privacy of your credit report. In other words,
Mhm.
who can access it? Can anybody access it? Can your next door neighbor access it? Not legally.
Mhm.
Number nine, you have the right to a security freeze and fraud alerts. Again, we'll go over that. because I've got an idea with this particular one. And
Oh, cool.
I've written a it's not a book, it's a training on ways we can determine and dislike and find all the faults with it, with the credit reporting system. But if we don't know how to fix it, if we don't come up with solutions, what good are we? And so that's what I've done.
So you have like a workbook that we can talk about.
I want to show people, well, it's not really a workbook. We'll get into that later.
Oh,
Rabbit
okay.
holes, here we come. Um, and you have the right to seek damages. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to get into depth with it right now, but with that being said, the right to seek damages, I just did that.
Yeah,
About
you've
4 months
mentioned
ago.
that. You
I
mentioned
did
that, I
that.
think, in our first podcast, I think you mentioned that.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
indirectly. We're
Yeah.
going to go into it a little bit more in depth, but it had to do with the time frame on when a debt collector was coming after somebody. So we'll go after that. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
so what would you like to start with
Well,
as
to
we
me,
go over this?
okay, this is going to be very important, I think, points for our audience, for our average consumers out here like me. We're taking point by point, like you said. I think what I want to say up front is most likely this is going to be a two-parter because again, we're keeping our time in check so that people can actually listen to us and garner some information, and we don't overload everybody out there all at once. So let's just go right back to number one. Let's start at the top. The right to access your credit report. We've talked about that many times, every single episode, as a matter of fact, where we say, go get your annual credit report at annualcreditreport.com. Again,
Right.
if you have not done that, do that today. Today. So let's talk about that and how that's a change from the way it used to be. Where do we stand right now with you have the right to access your credit report?
Yes, you do. And you have the right to not be charged for it. Now, the access through the law, it states that you have the right to access your credit report once per year from each bureau. And because of COVID, the credit bureaus were talked into doing it once per week, and they agreed. And ironically, it's still in effect. Now, is that a law that it can be that is once a week? No, it's a company bureau policy. So at any point, they can take that right away. But
Right, got it.
currently, it's
Mhm.
still, as of our talk here,
Mhm.
it's once per week you can do it. Is it necessary once per week? No, it's not. So they've kind of gone overboard with it. But nonetheless, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So you pull your credit report, then you go through it and you try to determine what's right, what's wrong. With the amount of fraud that has been in business, first of all, you may think, I'm not applying for credit. I don't care about credit. I'm not going to get any more. I'm older. I'm younger. I don't have any credit. So what difference does it make what's on the credit report? Believe me,
Mhm.
it makes a tremendous amount of difference. What happens if fraud? In fact, there was just recently the amount of breaches and the amount of fraud that's been going on out
Yeah.
there. We're into the millions, billions of people that have their data out there. How do you
Mhm.
know someone hasn't hijacked your information? You're not going to know until you look at your credit report.
Right.
Now you go apply for credit in the future, a couple years from now, and all of a sudden there's this data that's not yours. Now I'm not trying to say it's too late at that point, but you're getting ready for a purchase and you want to move now, and you can't. It might be
Right.
2 years from now. So
That's
that's
a
the
big
issue with
deal.
that.
And it affects more than just going and getting a new line of credit as well.
Right.
I mean, your credit score can affect, we've talked about this, we're going to hit on it just very briefly. I'm not going to harp on this, but it can affect your employment and your insurance. A lot of people don't realize when you get something as simple as like auto insurance, they pull your credit.
Yes,
Your
they do.
pricing, your risk is determined by your credit. So you may not want to be a credit user, but your credit follows you through your life and it affects you day to day and you don't even realize it. So it is an important thing to go get
Yes,
this credit report.
insurance, rent,
Mm-hmm.
um, employment, like you
Yeah,
just mentioned, if you're going to be a loan officer, you have to have your credit pulled. If you're going to be an insurance salesman, you're going to have your credit pulled. If you work for a bank, you know
you
this.
have to. Yep. And the reason for that is actually that one to me has always made sense because let's say you have bad credit, that they're not saying that they're not going to hire you, but it puts you at a risk, especially let's say if you're going to be a teller on the front line, you have access to this cash. If you are in a precarious position where you have all these collection accounts, they see it as human nature as embezzlement to try to take some of this cash to help yourself. Not that you would have even thought about that, but that's how banks look at it. So this
A-
affects a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. You're hitting it right on the head.
Hmm.
Whether you realize it or not, that's the thing. You don't,
That is,
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Okay. I'll let you
well, we,
direct.
yeah, so we've made the point, and again, right to access your credit. Access it. We've given you the tool, annualcreditreport.com, and read it line for line. And if you don't understand something on it, reach out to John or myself. We will help you understand what it's telling you. You are just basically trying to protect yourself from really identity fraud, credit fraud, anything. Errors, any errors on there that need to be fixed. Okay, so that's your first right. Our
Well,
second right,
I'm going to
oh,
stop you there for a minute because I want to
okay,
make what they call a caveat. And
okay,
that is this: do not go into Google and put in their free credit report because what's going to come up
right.
is a website that says free credit report. And you're going to think that's where you go to get it. And it's
Uh-uh.
not.
Yes,
Freecreditreport.com is put out there by Experian to get you to sign up for free. Now, there's been a lot, they do charge for it. That's the problem. And it's
right.
not free. Okay.
Yeah, and they take you down these little screens where you're like, where am I? Why do I have to say yes? And then you're suddenly like, how did I sign up for this? It's not what you want. It's not what you want.
Right. So go
You need the,
directly to
yes,
annualcreditreport.com.
exactly. That's the big difference. You're absolutely right. Thanks
Okay.
for that clarification, John.
Sure.
So our next point in the Fair Credit Reporting Act is the right to accuracy, completeness, and as you pointed out, the very important word, verifiability.
Oh boy, this is going to take a while to describe. Actually, it's
Well,
very simple. It's very simple.
okay.
Right to accuracy. Every item on your credit report, you have the right to have that item be correct. Just
Hmm.
because you may think you're looking at what is yours, you could be a wrong initial, could be a wrong spelling, could be a wrong former address, a wrong current address. Now, what are all those going to affect your credit score? More than likely not,
Correct.
but it does set up the fraud possibility. There are a lot of times that files are merged. In other words, you've got a John Q. Public merged with a John S. Public, and the data merges between the two. So you got to look out for that. Also, zip codes. If you don't think that a zip code doesn't matter in your credit scoring, it does. They don't say it does, but I'll tell you where it does do it. and that would be for insurance. Because zip codes, if you're getting car insurance and you're showing a zip code in a less desirable neighborhood, your insurance is going to be higher than one that's in which you live in a gated community. So
Right?
don't tell me your zip code doesn't matter. It does.
Yes. Good
Okay.
point.
So now it must be accurate. It must be complete. Sometimes balances aren't listed on the credit report. The amount of your payment is not listed on the credit report, or wrong balances are listed on your credit report. Does this affect your scoring? Yes, it does. But if it's wrong, if it's vacant, you've got a challengeable item. Okay. And we continue to challenge these items. The most, and this is what the bureaus hate, this particular one, and that's called verifiable. They don't want you challenging items that they in which you think that it may be derogatory. They don't want you challenging it. And I'm trying to get real clear here.
Okay.
Any item has to be verifiable. How do you know if it's verifiable if you don't challenge its veracity, if you don't challenge its verifiability? So
Correct.
any item on a credit report is verifiable, is challengeable. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've got 30 days. Once an item is sent into the credit bureaus, and we'll get into that in the next right.
Yeah.
You've got a right to challenge these items and to have them remove it. If they can't prove that it's accurate, if they can't prove it's complete, if they can't prove it's verifiable, it has to come off the credit report. Period. End of statement. Shut the door, Martha. That's it.
Yeah. That's the point of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That's a very important one. You're right. You
Right.
said that in the beginning. The verifiability is the key word here. If they cannot verify to you, this is where this data came from, this is why we're reporting this, then
Right.
it's not verifiable.
That is absolutely correct.
Excellent. Excellent point. And that's where disputes come in. But that does lead us right into the next right.
Correct.
The right to dispute errors. They feed right directly together. So let's talk about the right to dispute errors without getting too complicated on the verbiage of the dispute, because we'll be covering that in other ways. But
Right.
the right to dispute errors, let's talk about that.
Okay. Here's a major factor that I found extremely important when I was in this business since 2000. Actually, I've been working with credit reports since 87. But if you're talking about the challengeability and the veracity of credit reports, it goes back to about 2006 when I really started getting into the meat of this stuff. Is that you've got the right to dispute any information you believe is inaccurate or cannot be verified.
Mm-hmm.
So you write this letter. Do you have to show them, the bureaus want you to, but do you have to show them what information is correct, is incorrect? No, you don't. All you have to say is that this information about this trade line is incorrect. So when you send in the letter, and again, we're not going to get into the wording of it, but you have to show them what you're challenging. In other words, it's Bank of America, or it could be Chase, or it could be a debt collection.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can write
Your line item, your
the
trade
line
name.
item, the name of the line item,
Mm-hmm.
and the account number that they have. That'll be on the credit report. That's all
Correct.
you need to do. It's a right. They have to prove you're guilty. You don't have to prove your innocence. Think of it as a criminal case. You got the
Right.
right to remain silent. I do. Shut up and use it, Um, so, and then the bureaus, once you send it in, have the right to investigate. And they've got 30 days to do that investigation. 30 days from when? 30 days from the days that you that they received
Right.
this documentation. What I typically do is I will give them the starter date. I'll say, okay, I'll give them 2 months from the date I send that letter off, if you're not sending it certified, to
Mm-hmm.
when you're going to receive it back. Now they've got 30 days. So let's give them a week or two to open the mail and a week or two at the end to bring it back, to mail it back to you. And what you'll receive back is the entire credit report that they have on you, to include the results of your challenges.
Right. So those line items that you said, I'm challenging this accounts, then go look at those and see if something has changed on those accounts
Right.
based on your dispute.
Correct. It was either validated, verified,
Mm-hmm.
it was changed, and they'll tell you what changed on it. In other words, it could be you had 90 days late on there and they changed it to a 30-day late. Or it was deleted. It'll say deleted off your credit report.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, is everything that you challenge going to come off the credit report? No. Heavens no. And please don't believe some of these shamans out there that tell us that they can get it off in 14 days. No, not possible, not legal. So don't
Mm-hmm.
believe the BS that you're going to hear from people.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm with you on there. And I think we're going to do a couple episodes on that topic specifically. There's a lot of scams out there and misinformation, and people charging for a lot of misinformation. So we want to talk about that. So the right to dispute errors, again, you can have the right to go in, you can dispute inaccuracies, and you can dispute something that's just frankly not true. That's not even my credit line. Why are you even
Right,
putting that on me? That sort of thing. But I do want to just mention very quickly, we always talk about, John, that we're going to send that dispute through the mail, the
right.
US the US mail, with a return receipt signature required. That tells you the day they received it. But there's an entire generation out there that will not do that. They will dispute it online. And that's just a fact. And that is a capability. With the bureaus, you can dispute it directly online. So then I think maybe your 60 days comes even further into the play, because you can see when you sent that email. Of course, it's date stamped and time stamped, but you don't know when it came up in the queue, because it's going to go into a customer service queue. You don't
Yeah.
know when it came up into that queue. So then you're kind of playing a game, and when does my 30 days start? And that's the unfortunate side of the online dispute process. I think that it's important we mention that. You don't have anything in your hand to say this is when my 30 days began, technically.
Well, yeah, I know people, and I'm one of these people too. I shop online, I order online, I get my groceries online, I do everything online. I don't go to the store. It just makes life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
But in this instance,
Mm-hmm.
it will be in your best interest to write this out,
Yes.
because here's an example of why. If you do it electronically, Experian results or the request goes to the Philippines. If you call them or in queue for, let's say, Equifax or TransUnion, they go to different countries.
Right.
Okay, Jamaica's one, India's another. So these, and they put into a system called eOscar, but they're put into that system, eOscar, which is an electronic system. They're not sitting there reading, they're coding. And that code from wherever you're sending it to will then go to the predator and they will then bounce it back. What happens if they put in the wrong code?
Yeah.
Okay, could be for a totally different reason. Now, if you send it via mail, it stays in country.
That's an interesting point to make. I love that. I didn't realize that either. And so again, so much easier to do it online, but is it really? It doesn't sound like it. It
It's
sounds,
easier if you don't
but
necessarily want the good results.
there you go. There you go. So definitely put it in writing, and any piece of paper, you don't have to type it up and print it, just write it all down,
Right.
put it in the envelope, take it to the post office, request, pay the extra $6 or $3, whatever it is, for that return receipt with the signature, because that gives you the date.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's what we definitely want to advise you to do when you're going to dispute things. You're better off doing it in writing.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we have time for one more. You feel up to one more today?
Oh, yeah. Let me get my bourbon and Coke here.
Okay, cool, cool.
Okay.
Okay, we're all set. Let's go to the next one. This is an important one as well. The right to be informed of negative actions. So let's say you go apply for credit or employment, or you want to rent a house and you get told no. Tell us about those rights.
When you are denied credit, denied employment, denied anything based on your credit report, that entity has to send you a notice stating why they're denying you and what
Mhm.
part of the credit report affects their decision.
I believe those are called adverse action
Adverse
notices.
actions. Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
that's correct. Adverse action notices. So they've got to explain to you why that was, why
Okay.
that happened. Now, it could be, like I said, you could have a 700 score and they could still deny you because they found something on your credit report that indicates. I had one case where the woman, it was a woman, spent $100,000 on her student loans and was denied employment, not because of bad credit, but because she had so much in student debt.
Well, that sounds like half of America.
It is now, yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that that is what happened in that one woman's um, instance.
That was her experience. Yeah.
That was her experience. Thank you.
So basically their adverse action was because she had too much outstanding debt and it was all her student loans.
Correct.
Ah,
She was
that's
making
horrible.
payments on them. And
Horrible.
they had come out of deferment. So
Oh,
how does she pay those off if she can't get a job?
yeah.
It,
Yeah, that's an oxymoron right there. So when they give you this adverse action notice, they tell you why, what specific thing on that credit report they consider to deny you. And do they tell you what bureau it's reported on? Because not everybody pulls three bureaus
and
for everything.
they won't in those situations. Yeah,
Okay, so they
they'll
don't.
tell you it's coming from TransUnion and it's because your
Oh,
score is so and so or whatever. Um,
so they will tell you what bureau.
Yes.
Okay, so then you know when you're pulling your free credit report, that's another reason, by the way. Let's say they take away the where you can get it, your annual credit report. You said you can get it weekly now. Let's say they take that away and they go back to annual.
Yeah.
If you're denied credit or anything adverse action, that's another reason that you have a right to get this credit report, correct?
Correct.
So this is another one of those rights in the Fair Credit Reporting Act that directly affects you.
That is correct.
And they have specific timelines that everybody has specific timelines of when they have to deliver this adverse action notice.
Right. I
So
believe it's 5 days, is it not? Do you know?
I, I think in the mortgage industry it's 3.
Is it?
In the
Okay.
mortgage, yeah, it's 3 in mortgage, but I don't know like what it is for insurance or if you're applying to rent or something, or if it's due to employment. I don't know the rules around that.
There's an
But
immediacy about it.
there is. They cracked down on that for a while there, where it was like if you couldn't prove you sent it out in 3 days, you were fined as
Yes.
the entity who was saying no. That's the way it's supposed to be. And because it's one of your rights, you have a right to know this. You have a right to know it quickly, and you need to go pull that credit report, annualcreditreport.com. It doesn't cost you anything, and look at it. Is it
Right.
wrong? Or was this accurate?
I just want people to know what's in the toolbox. And we've only
Yeah,
gone over just a short 3 or 4
yeah, there's
items
more.
that are in your toolbox. There are
Yep,
screwdrivers, there are crescent wrenches, there are pliers, there are hammers, there are fine fine tools that may make a difference in your life. And
absolutely.
it's the credit report, I always say, is the most important part of your financial life. Okay?
Yep,
Not
yep. And
not necessarily your spiritual life, but in your financial life. And everybody wants to live a good financial life.
well, it affects all of us in every aspect. So
Yeah.
we've literally only covered 4 of the points of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So like I told you in the beginning, we're going to wrap this podcast up, but we're going to do a part 2 because there's more to know about this very important regulation that affects your rights as the consumer. These are your tools, as John has said. So,
Right.
John, wrapping up today's, what's the one last thing you want everyone to know before we head off for the day?
Pull your credit report. I'm going to beat
Yes.
everybody up with this, but
Yep.
pull your credit report and just try to understand it, try to read it, try to figure it out. If you can't, drop me a note. Let me know. I'll explain things. This is my
Yes.
job. This is what I've been doing for 30 some years. This is what I'll end up doing right before they close the coffin. I mean, this is what I'm going to be doing.
This is your
Uh,
passion.
it is. It always has been. My passion has always been to help people. If you ever look at the history of my employment, it's always
Mhm.
been in helping people. We won't
Yes.
go down that rabbit hole because you'll never get me out.
Well, like John said, we want to invite you to ask questions. If you don't understand what you're looking at, reach out. We both of us are here to help you. John, thank you for today. This is very helpful information. I look forward to part 2 where we dive even further into these rights. And everyone, again, please ask questions, leave us comments. You can DM us, direct message, email us. We're both on Substack. All of us, all of our information is very easy to get to. And let us know how we can help you. If you find this helpful, please subscribe and keep following along. We have a lot more information. We'll see you on part 2, John.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you
Have a
later.
good, have a good day.